Hey Campoholics, we're in Coldwater, Michigan at the Grand Design 2022 Owners Rally. But we're all set up here. We got a day to spare before it gets underway. Yesterday I checked on Atlas Obscura. Cool little app, you need to get it. If you don't, tells you all the obscure stuff in the area. The Kellogg Discovery Center, the Kellogg Museum, like Kellogg Corn Flakes. They got a museum for him in Battle Creek, Michigan, so we're going to take a ride up there and check it out. Hopefully we can take the camera in there and video it for you because it looks pretty cool. Here we go.
I'm Missy.
I'm Mike.
And we're the Campoholics!
All right, Campoholics, we just made it here. We just arrived at Battle Creek, Michigan. It's about 30 minutes from our campground, 35 minutes. McDonald's in Battle Creek needs help. Oh my goodness.
Okay, lock the doors.
Lock the doors. Lock the doors, she says. Historic Adventist Village. All right, let's go check this place out. All right, thank you.
Now this is the nurse's uniform from the 1915 graduating class of the Battle Creek Sanitarium. That is back in the days when you could actually tell the difference between a nurse and a doctor. You know, you go into a hospital today, everybody's wearing surgical clothes. Yeah, so you don't know if you're talking the nurse, the doctor, or the janitor. So you better be very careful about what you're discussing and whom, because it could get rather embarrassing. By this time, though, they did understand germs because you can see those cuffs weren't attached to the dresses. They could take them off if they got soiled. They could bleach them, starch them, put your sleeves right back in there.
Oh, okay.
Now, any of our equipment now behind ropes, we encourage our guests to try. This one here is called a trunk twister. What you do is you sit on the chair here, put your feet out in front of you, you grab a hold of those things there, and then you twist just your lower body, keeping your shoulders tight to here. This is to tighten up the core of your body.
Try that. Let's get in the trunk twister.
Trunk twister.
The trunk twister.
And a lot of the stuff you see in workout facilities today are based off of John Kellogg's theories. I can think of Planet Fitness having a couple of them based off this one right here.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And it's such a simply designed piece of equipment, your husband could make you one of these.
Yes.
We live in a RV, we don't have room for it.
Then you just got to do it in a seat up there at the front.
That's what he would say.
There's no room in the RV for it.
Yeah. Well, there wouldn't be much room in the little smart car either, huh?
Yeah, right?
Now this
time
next
clock?
one here is the foot vibrator. In this particular one here, you want to sit in the chair, you want your chair to be back far enough that when you hook your heels in here, your knees go straight. This is going to help the blood circulation in your lower extremities. Anybody else want to join us here? Now, John Kellogg was big into two things. Blood circulation, because he thought perfect circulation equals perfect health and blood and body cleansing. This is for the blood circulation. Patients would just sit around discussing the business of the day while they got their treatment. John Kellogg is also in the International Inventors Hall of Fame for a couple of years because we had some of our equipment on display in Arlington, Virginia. We've since got that back, but we love the treatment list we got from that. But this would be a good one to have in airplanes too.
Yeah.
Because blood pooling in the feet is one problem they have in a long distance flying. This would get that blood circulating out of your feet.
After surgery.
But if you could sit in a chair like this on the airplane, that would help even more.
Yeah,
But I
right?
don't think that's ever going to go away. Anytime you get on them, they're closer this way, they're closer this way here. Now this next one here, unfortunately I burned my motor out on this one here, and they just don't make motors this size to go in here anymore. But this thing here would vibrate just like that right there.
Okay.
And this is for helping you to overcome nervous fatigue, muscular weakness. It would assist in your blood circulation and also aid in the relief of constipation. Now, if you were sitting on this chair here, and this chair is going, the only way we'd know that this chair was doing anything would be the noise. Or unless you started to talk, and then you could hear it in your voice. Otherwise, it shakes so fast you can't see anything happening. But fortunately, here in Michigan, we don't need chairs like this anymore.
Yeah, the roads.
We got the roads. Yep, that'll get rid of constipation in a hurry. Won't it?
Yeah. And the axles and springs and everything else, yes.
Well, of course, I've been down to Arkansas, I-40 coming out of Memphis, Tennessee. I had a pump organ in the back of a trailer one time, and I thought I was going to lose that thing. It was just so bad.
Huh.
But yeah, We think we got a line and a motor now that'll fit in there. It has no work.
That's a shame. That'd be cool.
All right, now this one here, a person would either sit on this one here, let it rub on the back of their hamstrings, or they'd lay across that, break the cellulite of their stomach. This one here, most everybody's seen these, but they seem to use two different ways, either on the stomach or on the buttocks. There's actually a chart of about 30 different ways to use them with two different belts. Now we've got the wide belt on there. So once you'd come to the sanitarium, they would first determine what was wrong with you. You'd go to the chart on the wall. You'd find that illness, you'd set up, use it 15 minutes, the way it told you how to use it. So maybe if it was your shoulders that needed work on, it might tell you to run around your shoulders. If it was your legs, your neck, a lot of different ways besides two most people think. It also had two hand things that would go up here. So as this thing was going back and forth, your upper body would be getting work out too. And then this one right here, this one has 6 wooden boards underneath this itty bitty piece of leather here. Now these boards here are actually on varying heights, and they're on a camshaft, just like the engine of a car. Oh. So as the table goes back and forth, those boards go up and down. Look at that. Now this again was for the sluggish bowel, constipation. Constipation was a huge problem back in those days because when they killed an animal, they ate everything they could, so they got all that fat in their systems. So John Kellogg basically built his sanitarium on the premise of getting the feces out of people and teach them how to keep it up. Now you can see there's different ways to use this one right here. The lady at the front laying on her stomach on one, the lady behind her, and an elevated one on her back. The far end of the treatment room, a lady laying on her side. You also notice they did not have OSHA back in those days. Those women are walking around in full dresses with all those open belts.
Yeah, with the belts, yeah.
Now this is the pre-1902 sanitarium before the fire. What it did, it had one shaft and went to the top of the treatment room, and then all the belts worked off of that. So they really only had to have one motor to run their whole treatment room. Oh, and I have laid down here before. Trust me, I'll eat my fresh fruits and vegetables. That really hurts. Soft cloth maybe under there, or rubber, but those boards, not much padding right there. We're gonna head over to the other side. Now, when you first come to the sanitarium, maybe one of the first things they do is they bring you over the dynameter. Now this is the thing that John Kellogg invented, patented, and sold to the US Navy. There, they would test out their 30 different muscle groups, they would chart you, and then they knew what you had to work on. So say you would come there with a wrist injury or had wrist surgery. This thing here was on a wall, similar to that one right there. Go ahead and just take those things and twist them back and forth. Pretty simple, right? You're getting your flexibility in your wrist. Now, if you did a muscle tone, and you're getting your muscles. A lot of John Kellogg's equipment worked on resistance. Now, I don't know if you determined at this time that free weights are hurting people, because with free weight, it did go into your fatigue. If that weight's over top of you, it's going to come down. If you're underneath it, it's going to come down on you. With resistance, when you stop, it stops your chance of hurting yourself a lot less. Now, of course, everybody wants to know what's the difference between a running horse and a running camel. Inquiring minds want to know. People lose sleep over this.
Right.
Well, I don't want anybody losing any sleep. This one here is a mechanical horse. This one here is a mechanical camel. I'll step out of here, and if somebody wants to hold that blue button down right there, you'll see what the difference is. As you can see, when the horse goes back and forth, it gets
That's probably better for females with bladder.
that one's terrible. Alright, this will do two different things. The violence of the motion would cause you to use different muscles to hold yourself on. The second thing was would help in the passage of food to your body. Basically, it just shook it out of you. Now, whether it went up or down probably depended how late for lunch you got on that. Now, I had a gentleman here about 6 years ago, and he said he rode a camel across the Sahara Desert. And he said once a camel gets up and running, that's pretty much how they go. But he says they don't have stirrups on their saddles there. He said what they do there is you run one leg down the side of the camel, you hook your other one around it, either the saddle horn or the hump there. Then he said when they hand you the reins, they tell you you have to flap like a chicken. He goes, I'm not afraid of this. No, when that gets going, you got to get your arms in motion with that camel. He says if you don't do that, it's going to beat you to pieces. If you do it, you still get beat to pieces, it just takes a little bit longer. So he says you do learn to flap like a chicken. Now all the equipment you see in the back wall right there, probably still sitting at the bottom of the North Atlantic Ocean. That is an actual picture taken of the Titanic before it set sail. John Kellogg had a gymnasium on it, and also in its sister ship, the Olympia. Now this is the electric bed. Now if you're a paraplegic or quadriplegic, of course eventually your muscles go away. John Kellogg thought that doesn't have to happen. So what they do is they put their patient on here. They would stack the sandbags on there and then to give them electrical shocks. Now this causes those muscles to jerk like that. The sandbags, they remember, they're for the resistance. Now the patients still would be able to walk, but the muscle tone will start to come back.
Oh.
Today they have things called the TENS machines to do the same kind of thing, that artificial muscle stimulation. Now John Kellogg was friends with Thomas Edison. When Thomas Edison perfected the light bulb for mass production, John Kellogg had a use for it. Now before he created this horizontal light bath, as it's called, the way they used to get the toxins out of your body would be they would bleed you. They literally cut you and let the blood flow. They put a hot beaker there, and as the beaker cooled off, it'd suck the blood out of you, or they'd throw leeches on you. Well, John Kellogg thought there's got to be a better way because it's not the blood. So he invented this. Now this right here, they'd pull this out here. The patient would lay with their head to this side here. They'd push that back in there, and then they'd turn the lights on. Now this would heat up to 105 degrees Fahrenheit, causing you to sweat those poisons out of your body. Now if you were a smoker, when the poison did sweat out of their body, it would be nicotine. So after treatment, there'd be a nicotine stain on that sheet right there.
Yeah, yellow.
Really? Huh.
So he would always know if somebody came in there and said they weren't a smoker, he could tell. And you notice whoever designed his equipment made gorgeous stuff and rock solid.
It's like a piece of furniture.
Yeah, this stuff is 100-some years old, and it's just rock solid. All right, now this here is another light bath. And this particular one here, the patient would set on a wet towel there. They close this down here. They close these down here. Their head would come up through here. Once again, they'd seal that off with a wet towel, and then they'd turn the lights on. Now that one heats up to 105 degrees. This one will go up to at least 150 degrees, and you can feel the heat rolling out of here. So this would have had an attendant on the outside so the patient didn't dehydrate. This is good for warming up the body, skin diseases, arthritis, depression, and also getting those toxins out of your body. And those are all original bulbs in there.
Are they really?
They don't make a light bulb like that anymore. I think Thomas Edison found out that wasn't very cost effective. If they don't burn out, you don't replace. But I understand and I've heard it just two different places, either in California or in Florida, that they have a light bulb that's been burning for over 140 years in a fire station. They just never turn it off. It just hangs there.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, and I've heard it.
And they look like those new Edison bulbs.
Yeah.
They look like, that's why I thought that's what they were.
Yeah.
They look like the ones, because they don't put off much light, personally, if you ask me.
But these things, they put
those
off
do,
some-
yes.
Yeah, they really put off some light.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And then this right here, it's supposed to all be green, but if you can put your thumb down there and it turns blue like that, it means you got good blood circulation. You got warm fingers.
Oh, yeah?
It's like the old mood rings. It means you're alive.
Okay, we'll see.
You're dead.
Oh no.
Oh, you're all right.
Yeah. All right, this right here, this is John Kellogg. He was only 5'3", which is right about there. He was kind of an eccentric with the white shoes, the white suit, hat, shirt, tie, even the white bird, which he'd walk around the hospital with his bird on his shoulder. People say, what did he do that for? Just because he could. He was John Kellogg. He could do whatever he wanted to do. That's the kind of ego he had. Now, he does look like kind of another famous man.
Colonel Sanders.
Yeah, but he was the anti-colonel because he was vegetarian. This is what he looked like when he started at the Western Health Institute. This is what he looked like in his late 80s. Now that 5'3" height, though, that did bother him. If he was annoying him, because you're taller than he was, and he knew that, what he'd do is he'd go into his office, he'd go around his desk, and he'd sit in his chair. Now, if you brought on to sit on the chair opposite him, only your chair might be this much lower than his chair. He had what was called the short man, or Napoleon syndrome. Now, back in the 1840s and 50s, they had some common misconceptions. One of those being that fresh vegetables were deadly. In fact, in New York City at one time, it was illegal to sell fresh vegetables. So one day, this gentleman took 3 tomatoes out in public, and he started eating them. Crowds gathered around because they thought this fool was committing suicide. Well, the man lived, so we know tomatoes are good for us. I'm still not convinced on broccoli and cauliflower, though. I think there's a lot of research that needs to be done on that. The problem back in those days wasn't really with the fresh vegetables. Nowadays, we consider that to be a week or two old. Back in those days, it could have been 3 or 4 months old, and they were sending the market in lead containers. They're getting lead poisoning from their vegetables. So the medicines you used to use back in those days, alcohol, arsenic, or mercury. Alcohol was the anesthesia of the day. Mercury, that was for their sexually transmitted diseases. Arsenic, rat poison. I suppose given enough would get you out of the hospital. Before they created the horizontal light bath there, the way they used to get the toxins out of your body would be to bleed you. George Washington, the first president of the United States, says he died from laryngitis. Well, it's actually because they bled him 4 times. They took out 1.4 liters of blood. He was so weak, he probably suffocated. They used to think tobacco was good for you. So if you had lung diseases, you were to smoke. John Kellogg and Ellen White, both 100 years before the Surgeon General said you should throw those things away, said you probably should throw those things away. And what do you think the average life expectancy would have been back in the 1850s and 60s? And I'm going to give you a hint. A lot of babies died back in those days. So what do you think the average life expectancy would have been?
32.
I got a 32.
I'm at 48.
48. So what was it? Come on, you guys have been here before. 39.9 years. Basically right in between the two.
Right in the middle.
Right in the middle. And one of the reasons for this is right underneath here. Back in those days, women used to wear dresses that weighed as much as 90 pounds.
Jeez.
These dresses went all the way down to the streets. Their streets weren't paved. They also didn't have the automobile. They had horses. And horses do what horses do in the street. In the year 1900, in New York City, it is estimated that horses left 2.5 million pounds of manure and 60,000 gallons of urine daily in that city. When it rains, that turns to mud. Mom's skirts go through there. You know how kids grab a hold of mom's skirts.
Yeah.
Either that goes in their mouth or... Ellen White actually recommended the women of the day that back then to shorten the skirt up, get her off the street.
Wow. All right, Campoholics, we just got back from our Atlas Obscura adventure to the Kellogg Discovery Center in Battle Creek, Michigan. Pretty
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Yes.
What? It wasn't a museum. It was.
Well,
it is a museum.
It is a museum, but it's a heritage. It's the heritage from the Seventh-day Adventist
Yes.
Church. I guess Kellogg was very much involved with that. That's how he got a lot of his funding to do what he did.
Right.
Because actually, cereal was more of a afterthought.
Yeah, Kellogg, which I didn't know, was all his inventions were pretty darn cool, but I didn't know he was that much into nutrition,
Body
health,
wellness,
overall health,
and wellness.
wellness. Yes.
And what it comes down to nowadays is your gut health. He was way ahead of his time. Your gut health. Most of his machines were all about cleansing your gut, evacuating your gut. Some were a little grotesque.
Blood circulation.
Blood circulation. But he was definitely way ahead of his time. And the cereal was more of an afterthought. It really was. So it's definitely a museum that we learned something from.
The cereal came across from a woman.
Was trying to eat healthy. Was eating corn.
Yep.
And broke a tooth.
Yep. So he made corn into flakes.
The flakes.
So people could consume it a lot easier.
Yes.
Funny thing about it, he had no interest in messing with the cereal after he made the invention, which I did not know. His brother is the one who actually signs the cereal boxes.
Yes.
So his brother took over the cereal side of the house.
Yes.
While he stayed in the medical side of the house. So very interesting. Shout out to Don. Don was the curator of the video that you saw. He actually explained everything very thoroughly, which was pretty cool. So Atlas Obscura, again, another app that we use that we would have not have ever known about the place until I downloaded that app and found out things in our area.
Yeah.
So we took the 45-minute ride up there. It was worth it. It was a good time.
It's almost a 2.5, 3 hour tour. So
Yep, and it was free.
It was free. Yep.
Free. So
Yep.
thanks for watching. Subscribe below. Ring the bell for notifications. I'll post a link down below to Atlas Obscura. Pretty cool place to visit. Love the machines. They were fascinating.
And they were actually real. They were the real machines. They weren't just replicas. So
Yep,
yeah.
right out of the sanitarium.
Yep.